Welcome, friends,
to the How To Heretic.
I'm Uncle Mark.
And I'm Uncle Dan.
And I'm Uncle Doug. And this is your user's guide for people in a hurry on life on the outside.
That's right. Leaving religion is the first step into a larger, better world.
But it can also be a scary world. Things work differently now.
Never fear, that's why we're here.
We're your audio uncles. And with help from good friends and experts in all sorts of fields.
We're going to share the stories and seek the knowledge to build a great life.
After all, we only get one that we know of, so why not make the most of it? Let's do a show. Ready? Uncles 3.
Hello.
Here we are. Or the other two of you. I don't know how. We got to work this out.
We got to figure out what...
Right. How does one greet the other two while being inclusive of oneself? It's a hot mess.
We're all the uncles.
But what is not a hot mess is this week's show.
That's
right. Where I am going to talk about... Well, we're gonna put a little spin on the whole patron saint thing. We're gonna have some fun with that.
Sure. We're gonna learn about the infallibility of the papacy.
Yes,
if nothing else,
and the very high turnover rate. And then Dan, what are you gonna talk about? You got a thing?
We're gonna delve into the Garden of the Gods to talk about something. A Hindu god that has created a dust up fairly recently.
He's kind of a dick.
Well, he's doing fine, but boy, his followers are mad.
He's the god of the incels. And then we're going to have an interview and a how-to with a friend of ours from a foreign land who's going to talk about, engaging and doing the right thing even if the odds are long.
Yeah.
And how dreadful a society can be if religion has too much power.
Right.
That's right.
And how nice it can be if you manage to expunge that power.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that'll be it's actually a message of hope.
Some stories have good endings.
Yeah.
But so that's the show. However, we have an announcement to make.
We do. I just sneezed. But yes we do.
And it is, God bless you, Dan.
Thank you.
But we will be joining the guys from The Scathing Atheist and Cognitive Dissonance this year for their annual charity kind of roast called Vulgarity for Charity.
Hooray!
Yes. There's roasting that will occur. There's all kinds of stuff. Basically, you, listener, for charity, can get us or any of them to be mean to a person of your choice.
Yeah, yourself, anyone else you want, any public figure, person, place, or thing.
If you hate your brother or any of your uncles,
boy, I can relate.
You could actually make us roast one of our fellow uncles if you want us to.
Yeah.
And we'll do it. All you do is you donate $50 or more to a great cause, which is Modest Needs. They are you should look them up because
they're amazing.
They're great.
This is an organization that helps people who are kind of just struggling to get by today.
Yes.
Somebody needs a tank of gas. Somebody's got to pay off a bill or they're in trouble. Somebody might get evicted if they don't pay their rent.
And you get to choose who you're helping.
Yep.
Like you can sort of browse through various requests for help, and you can choose who you're helping.
It's very direct. It's very you're literally picking the person you want this charity to go to. So we highly encourage that.
Yeah.
And then you get a receipt for this donation. You email it into these the scathing fellas.
That's right. At the email address vulgarityforcharity@gmail.com.
And you email that in with your request for who you want to be vulgarized.
Now, if the person you want to be vulgarized is not a public figure, if it's a friend or a relative or yourself, a picture and a description will be most helpful.
Yeah, sure.
Right, and what you hate about that person.
Or what you love about them that we can then make you hate.
Or what you love to hate about them.
Sure,
so,
all of the things.
Please do this as soon as you can if you're able. The contest ends at midnight on November 21st, so everything has to be gotten in before that. We're so happy to be part of this.
Last year they raised over $25,000.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
This year, because we're involved, they're going to obviously raise way more.
Yeah.
But it would be great if you guys, send some stuff in and say it's on behalf of your uncles or whatever.
And you can also choose which of that whole crew, including us, you may want to roast that person.
Right. Yeah.
So Be specific, be cruel, and be generous.
Get together with all of your friends and everybody do a donation, and then make each of us. It's a circle roast, and you can make us each roast the guy to our left, and we'll get through Tom and Cecil and all of those.
That
guys.
could be beautiful.
That would be a lot of fun.
A little bit of bad news. Someone already chose Ted Cruz. I'm sorry to say.
Oh, we can roast that guy many times.
Do it for free.
You know, do it as many times as you want. We will eviscerate.
Too easy. Too easy.
Cruz.
So we'll put a link to kind of the information that's currently on the Scathing Atheist website in these show notes. But if you can jump in and be part of this, that would be great. And we'll try to make you laugh and cry and learn to love all over again.
Yeah.
So let's do a show.
Uncle Dan,
Hey.
you know what I like?
I please tell me you're not going to get into sexual proclivities.
No, not at all.
Okay.
I like big funny hats.
Well, who doesn't?
That's what I like a lot.
Yeah, we just had Halloween recently.
That's right.
Yeah.
You know, I once went for Halloween. I went as the Pope, which was a costume that Uncle Mark made the year before.
Oh.
Yeah.
Why did you do that, Uncle Mark?
It's a hand-me-down because I just knew how to make a pope. I knew how to make the hat.
You're like, I've got a miter saw.
Yeah, exactly.
No, remember you put tape on a sheet, and spray painted it gold, and then pulled the tape off, and it looked like it was
An
like
embroidered
robe.
Oh,
It was
wow.
fantastic.
Very
quite a thing.
fancy.
Yeah.
Are you sure that was a pope and not like a Klansman costume?
And somehow my parents didn't know that I'm a homosexual. Well, if you like funny hats, Doug, you like big funny hats, you're in luck. So we have a fun segment on this show where we like to talk about the saints.
Yeah.
Right? The
When they go marching in, etc.
when they come marching. Yes, sorry, New Orleans. The bizarre and sometimes gruesome and always hilarious profusion of demigods that flutter all over the damn place in the world's second biggest polytheistic religion, Catholicism. And we've had fun talking about St. Drogo and St. Genesius and St. Agatha of Sicily. And her breasts, which are now celebrated as cookies for children. Because Catholicism is anything but weird.
Right.
But
very normal stuff.
Today I want to take a minor diversion from our typical saints operation.
Aww.
And get a little closer to the source and talk a little bit about the people who make saints. Popes.
Oh, sure.
So
they're sainters.
They're in the saint business. So there have been, by most counts, and they don't all agree, 266 popes since St. Peter first decided to put on one of those fancy pointy hats. And as weird and wacky as the saints certainly are, and oddly enough, many popes become saints because that particular contest does not exclude employees from playing, I guess. The history of the papacy is pretty fucking crazy too. So I thought we'd go a little OP and reach back into the golden age of 9th century Catholicism.
Ooh, what a time to be alive.
What a beautiful time. And wait till you see how beautiful a time this was for a pope that, well, just couldn't ever seem to get it right and never really found any peace.
Oh.
Today we'll be discussing our friend and the guy that most papal watchers know succeeded Stephen V, but preceded the very brief papacy of Boniface VI. We're talking about Pope Formosus.
Sure.
And
the popus with the mopus.
Since we all know that popes pick their new drag name themselves upon the appearance of the white smoke, this guy had a certain regard for himself because Formosus is Latin for beautiful. So Pope Formosus was probably born around 816 in the vicinity of Rome because all the popes at that time were from the vicinity of Rome. And then at some point he was made the cardinal of this place called Porto, which I found out is one of the 7 critical dioceses around Rome. And if you get one of those, it's a very cherry job. If you get one of those jobs, you're like in the upper echelon.
And that one's like that one was the one that had all the good clubs and
it was good for clubbing for sure, like with wooden clubs, with lead plummets.
By the way, when you said the vicinity of Rome, it took me several seconds to realize that you were talking about the area around Rome and not a specific place called the vicinity.
Well, it could have been.
There's the diocese and then there's the vicinity and
the El Vicinitato. So it was a sweet job, and then for some reason he was later given the job of papal legate to Bulgaria, which is a job he was very interested in having for some reason. Anyway,
hurrah.
So he got mixed up in major geopolitical shenanigans upon the death of Holy Roman Emperor Louis the Pious, a.k.a. Louis the Fair, a.k.a. Louis the Debonair. No. That's all true. Also notable that he was the son of the fabled Charlemagne. So the nobles then appointed that guy's son, Charles the Bald, no known aliases, as the new Holy Roman Emperor. There was a powerful Italian faction, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it was all these crazy geopolitics, and he ended up on the wrong side with Louis the Debonair, and somehow pissed off the Pope, so he went into hiding in Tours. Okay. Oh, that's to illustrate that politics were cray-cray. So somehow in all of this, Pope John VIII saw Formosus as a rival, and I'm not sure how, because Formosus' story paints him as a middling fuck-up at best. So he had him excommunicated in absentia for despoiling the cloister of Rome and collaborating with certain iniquitous men and women for the destruction of the Holy See.
Can I just say that despoiling the cloister sounds like something that happened on like one of Gordon Ramsay's shows or something?
Despoiling
You've
the cloister.
despoiled the cloister. Now we have to make a whole new one.
I'm sure people were actually burned alive for despoiling cloisters at some point.
Certainly.
Yeah, well.
By Gordon Ramsay. So we discussed what the Holy See was in episode 11. It's really a chair with a diplomatic passport.
Yeah.
But I think in this case it more broadly means the Vatican. So after Pope John VIII was murdered by a poisoner who lost patience with poisoning and so bashed his head in with a hammer.
This poison is taking positively minutes.
So the kinder, gentler, less threatened Pope Hadrian III had Formosus' excommunication lifted before he himself was murdered, and somehow half a dozen years later, Formosus was unanimously elected pope.
Wow.
I didn't dig too deep in this, but again, it's all crazy power politics among the College of Cardinals. Sorry, any Catholic friends who think that this is, divinely inspired. It's
yeah,
just,
I think what you mean to say is God done it.
God done it. So anyway, hooray, Pope Formosus the Beautiful. So, because 9th century Europe was wonderful, the geopolitics that Formosus found himself ensnared in pre-papacy continued to haunt his time on the throne.
Sure.
I'll spare much of the gory detail except to continue to point out some of the fabulous names of the major players in all the cold and hot wars that marked Formosus' papacy. There was, of course, Guy III of Spoleto and the patriarch Photius of Constantinople and his rival Basil I.
Who doesn't remember those
Naturally.
stories?
Then there was the famous dust-up between Odo, Count of Paris, and Charles the Simple. There was the bloody Arnulf of Carinthia and a guy named Lambert and his mother Agiltrude, just to name a few.
Oh, my God.
So-
if I had children, Agiltrude would be the first top the list for names.
It really rolls off the tongue.
Boy or girl.
And what happens? This one guy gets Pius, the Fair, the Debonair, and his rival gets the Bald.
Yeah.
His son.
His son.
And then another guy just gets the Simple.
Fuck you, kid.
He's dumb. So in short, the elderly but apparently beautiful Pope Formosus' short papacy was a backstabby House of Cards-style mess and not the fun he'd hoped it would be. So he died on April 4th, 896. At long last, this middling, out-of-his-depth priest's earthly life was through and his troubles were over. Except they were just beginning.
What?
Remember Lambert and his mom, Agiltrude, I just mentioned? They were on the losing side of some very twisted palace intrigues that saw them first ruling the Holy Roman Empire under Formosus, then Formosus somehow getting them tossed out by some complicated betrayal. So she was pissed. Boniface VI was crowned pope after he scored a military victory over Lambert and Agiltrude, but he only reigned for 15 days before dying of either gout or murder. His successor, Stephen VI, restored Lambert and Agiltrude to the throne of the Holy Roman Empire, and at her highly vengeful bidding, he presided over what should be one of the weirdest moments in Vatican history, but probably isn't. So Pope Stephen declared what has become known as the Cadaver Synod, or Synodus Horrenda in Latin, in January 897, and the Latin is much closer to the truth. Our friend Formosus had been dead less than a year, yet he was determined competent to stand trial.
Of course.
So his ripened 80-year-old body was dragged from its tomb, dressed in papal vestments, and sat on a throne in a gruesome and ridiculous
Oh, my God.
damnatio memoriae.
Wow.
Which is this ancient Roman practice it's called condemnation of memory,
Yeah.
in which some deceased public figure is dragged out to have their record kind of expunged from memory, so their names are chiseled off the monuments and things like that.
Holy shit.
So a deacon of the church stood beside the pile of worm-jiggling rot to act as proxy and answer the charges, while Pope Stephen screamed spittle-flecked harangues at the deceased accused. The court removed the title of pope, re-excommunicated him,
What?
undid every decision he'd made as pope, including undoing appointments of bishops and cardinals, etc., cut 3 fingers off his right hand and threw them into the Tiber River, and dumped his body in an unmarked pauper's grave, only to pull it out 3 days later and toss it in the Tiber River
Oh my God.
as well, where secretly a loyal monk recovered it, which will matter.
Oh my God. Of course it does.
So Stephen VI and his patrons Lambert and Agiltrude had gotten their revenge. If there's ever been a more clearly illustrated argument for church-state separation, I haven't seen it.
Well, I'm also like, this concept of the Pope's infallibility sort of brought a little bit into relief on this question.
Right.
Because
Yeah.
one Pope declaring the previous Pope decidedly fallible is,
Yeah.
Unpope, right?
Yeah.
And so,
I depope you.
and just in case you're talking about popes and their infallibility and their lifespans during the 9th century, in case you were wondering about Pope Stephen's fate, the always impatient and dramatic Romans had been horrified by the idea of the cadaver's synod, so a mob of them threw him in a jail cell where he was shortly strangled.
Okay.
It gets even weirder.
It's dangerous to be a Pope in that time.
No doubt.
Like the shortest lived pope was 15 days.
Wow.
Like he made it 2 weeks. So it gets even weirder as several succeeding popes went back and forth on Formosus and the legitimacy of his papacy. What was left of him was put back in St. Peter's, and the appointments that he made were reconfirmed. Then the next one re-unconfirmed, etc.
Oh my God.
Until ultimately there was a second cadaver synod.
No.
Where Pope Sergius had Formosus exhumed again, tried him again, found him guilty again, had him flogged and beheaded. And for us, like
He was still headed at this
I
point?
can't imagine his head was still attached.
They fucking flogged a dead body.
It was just
What could possibly be the point of that?
And for a second and final time, he was thrown in the Tiber. So that's the tale of poor luckless Pope Formosus, fellas.
I'm sorry I couldn't follow this. How many times was he poped and unpoped?
Probably 3 or 4. Well, probably 4 times.
He was thrice buried and twice drowned, beheaded, flogged.
Yeah.
What do you call it when you have your fingers cut off?
He's having a case of the Mondays.
He was the most poped and depoped of any pope.
Yeah, poor guy. Like it all went down after he was dead, which is just hilarious. But-
Right.
So that's Pope Formosus. And next time the current, maybe a tad less weird good guy pope says gays are still evil, or the church is being persecuted for people noticing they're the SEAL Team 6 of pedophilia, remember this whole tale before considering how seriously to take the papacy.
Right.
The answer is probably not at all.
Wow.
Good God.
There you go.
You know, poping was a lot more interesting back in the day.
Yeah, it was a more sporting kind of event.
Well, and spare a thought for that poor monk who had to fish that twice buried lump of flesh out of the river.
Oh my God. Never wash that off. So anyway,
Lord,
let's move on.
I think we all have to wash, so let's move on.
Uncle Doug,
Here am I.
as we look around the heavens, as we are wont to do on this show, and we see a great panoply of bad ideas floating in the clouds.
Yeah.
Not all of those bad ideas have found their way to the dirt yet.
Unfortunately.
Now, we're doing what we can.
We're trying our best.
We're doing our part.
We're just 3 dopes in Utah, so it's hard.
But there is that ancient white person proverb that says a billion so-and-sos can't be wrong. So we occasionally go to the Garden of the Gods, where we see what weeds still remain above ground.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a god. Yes, not only is this god still believed in, but some trouble has erupted recently, and that's why I decided we must talk about this
In a
god.
first in religious belief.
Yeah, Because religious belief normally just it's just all good things come from religion.
Why do you have to focus on the bad things?
I'm just trying to talk to the people.
All right. Well, what have you got for the people today?
Well, today, okay. Yes, we're going to go Hinduism.
Right. So we're going to do some Hindus. We're going to do some Hindon'ts.
It's the do's and don'ts of Hindon'tism. Look, let's just be real here. Polytheism is tricky. And when people of the same faith tradition are all allowed to choose which supreme god they want to worship most, and also what the rules are for that worship, there's going to be some, let's call it disagreement.
Yeah.
When, for example, you're researching for a podcast and you want to figure out where different gods in the Hindu pantheon line up in the hierarchy, or if there is a hierarchy, or why some gods seem to also be other gods, or why the hell every article seems to completely contradict the last one, it's easy to get confused.
It's a big tent, isn't
It
it?
must be exhausting to be a Hindu.
I just can't imagine. I don't get it.
Right.
It's a different world.
That's why they need billions of people to figure this out.
Well, I think the billions of people just further complicate the matter, actually.
Well, that's your opinion. That's one man's opinion.
It is. Look, so like a middle-aged noob trying to learn which Pokemon is super rare and which ones are so lame, one can end up feeling like a babe in the woods. So bear with me as we try to delve once again into that confusing world. The god we're looking at today is Ayyappan.
Ayyappan!
Yeah, I
It's
guess.
a crowd favorite.
Yeah, everybody, beloved by all.
Beloved by children everywhere.
Right, indeed. God apparently of growth, though if that's meant to be personal internal growth, I think recent occurrences may challenge that notion. We'll get to it. The story of Ayyappan starts when the childless king of Pantalam was walking through the forest and stumbled on a baby boy. You know how when you walk through a forest, sometimes you find babies?
They're just lousy with baby boys.
Now, if the first thing he doesn't do after finding the baby boy is call the police, the rest of this story is really
He's the king.
trouble.
Well, he calls somebody. Unsure of what to do about this, and who wouldn't be, he took the kid to a local ascetic to ask for advice.
A local esthetician.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because the kid maybe had some issues with an oily T-zone.
He's been lying
Right.
on the forest floor his entire life. He's probably going to have some skin issues.
Yeah. Anyway, an ascetic, for those who don't know, that's like a monk or somebody who studies, ethereal things. It's a lazy person.
Yeah.
Is what it is.
Someone who can't get a real job.
Right. So this ascetic told him to take the child home and raise him as his own. And then when the boy reached the age of 12, he would prick his finger on the spindle of a spinning wheel and fall into a deep sleep. No, wait, that's something else. That is a different story. I apologize.
Wait, I think I know this story.
No, in this story, when he reached the age of 12, the boy would reveal who he really was.
Okay. Like many of us do at age 12.
Right, exactly. It is kind of a thing.
Yeah.
The king and queen followed the advice and raised this child as their own, calling him Manikantha.
Catchy.
By the way, all of these pronunciations of the names are, I assure you, perfect.
Yeah.
Don't at me.
Right.
As he approached the age of 12, the king wanted to formally coronate Manikantha as the crown prince and heir to the throne. But an evil minister convinced the queen that the heir should be their younger, natural-born son, who happened to be an utter dimwit, and the minister assumed that if that ding-dong ascended to the throne, he could easily be led to do whatever the minister wanted.
I know this is a story of a god, but this is also the story of every royal family ever.
Yeah.
Right? There was the one capable, competent one that should probably be, if you're down with monarchy, you should probably be the king.
Right.
And then there's Eric.
Right.
Right. So,
yes, indeed.
Yeah.
So the minister convinced Queen Cersei, whoever that queen was, to fake being sick and insist that the only thing that would save her was tiger's milk.
oh, Jesus.
Which the king, who apparently was the one who supplied the brains to the younger child, said, okay, and sent his 12-year-old Manikantha out into the forest to collect the remedy.
And this is the origin story of Charlie Sheen,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Boy, what a cautionary tale this is.
This is definitely not Charlie Sheen. Because Manacantha returned from his venture actually riding a tigress.
Oh.
Thereby revealing that he was maybe not a normal young person.
Or just stupidly courageous.
Right.
Yeah.
And effectively so.
Yeah.
It turns out that this kid was deity. The son of Shiva, one of the three main gods of Hinduism,
Holy smokes.
and Mohini, a female avatar of Vishnu, who is also one of the three main gods of Hinduism.
Oh, this kid's connected.
So kind of a big deal.
Kind of a big deal.
Not
Big man on campus.
not beloved enough, of course, not to be just left on the ground,
Apparently.
but still son of some major
Heavy hitters. Heavy hitters.
Heavy hitters.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Heavy Hindu hitters.
Yes, heavy Hindus. So, side note, how can a culture, this just occurred to me, how can a culture dominated by a religion that plays this fast and loose with the gender and sexualities of their gods be fucking homophobic and transphobic?
Well, that's an interesting point. And, I've been reading a bit about this because India just did away with, I think it was a 1915 law or 16, a British colonial law outlawing homosexuality in every form. The Indian Supreme Court just struck that down.
Yeah.
And there was a ton of conversation online about how that was a colonial construct.
Sure.
It was not the case
Yeah.
prior to British colonial. So
Who knows?
So we found
rule Britannia.
we found a downside to colonialism.
Weird.
Wow.
Weird.
Yeah, well,
Stumbled on it.
I mean, the scholarship is still.
It's still just look, talk amongst yourselves.
Yeah.
Discuss. Anyway, the king, duly impressed by his tiger riding boy, decided to build a shrine to his amazing son, who he was just sure would win all the football trophies now.
See, this is what happens to millennials,
Right?
right? Oh, you're so special. You ride a fucking tiger,
And then
right,
suddenly,
and then you get a trophy.
right, yeah. Everybody's,
This is why our predicament. This is the predicament we're in right now.
So the question was where to build the shrine. He had Manacantha shoot an arrow into the air to determine the placement, which apparently sailed 30 kilometers away.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know if you guys have ever been in Boy Scouts and shot arrows, but finding an arrow that landed 30 meters away
Yeah.
is tricky.
Right.
It can be hard to do. It will take you 10 minutes. One that's 30 kilometers away is a horse of a different color. All I can say is I picture Lancelot's servant in Monty Python's Holy Grail. Message for you, sir. Or either that or the search party goes out and finds, a family in mourning after one of their kids is shot by an arrow, and one of them's like, yes, but where was he shot?
Right. What lucky Dalit was struck by the god's arrow?
Right, yeah. Can you point... Look, I'm sorry for your loss, but where exactly was he in the forest? We have to build a shrine.
We have to build a shrine right on top of his clavicle.
Right, yeah. We'll pay for the burial. You guys are going to have to build the shrine. Anyway, that temple... or maybe not that temple. I really actually couldn't figure out if this was the actual temple or not. But one of the great temples, one of the holiest places in all of Hinduism is Sabarimala. Nailed it.
Yep.
Located in the Periyar Tiger Reserve in the southwestern state of Kerala in India.
Yep.
It is one of the holiest sites in all of Hinduism, whatever the fuck that means. When you deal with Hinduism, you hear a lot about this is the holiest city in Hinduism. This is the holiest site in Hinduism.
But then again, somebody else has a different list.
It's like who decides this?
And what, do they pay less taxes or what?
What does it even mean?
Yeah, what do you get from it?
Well, there's no Hindu pope, right? There's no.
No, this is the problem with a decentralized religion. Nobody gets to have the final say on anything.
Right.
Anyway, what it means,
And that is what is not the problem about centralized religions.
right.
Is they're awesome, one man, it's the rule of one man.
Right. My way
to go.
or Yahweh.
Yeah, it's perfect. Away.
So what it means in this case is that this temple, which is extant today, gets as many as 30 million people walking the short hike and ascending the 18 sacred golden steps to this temple annually. And that's only on the special days of the year. There's it's almost entirely visited on these certain holidays. Like there's one 2-week period and another holiday over here. It's a very small amount of time in which 30 million people visit this. So suck on those numbers, Ken Ham.
Yeah, I mean that's like a in India that's like a preseason minor league team game attendance, 30 million people.
No, it's actually a lot even for India. And it's even more impressive considering the fact that until this week, no women between the ages of 10 and 50 were allowed in.
What?
What an odd restriction, you might say to yourself. And you're right, it's a super odd restriction. But man, is it apparently an important one. So, why forbid women between those ages? Any thoughts?
Menstruation.
You guessed it. Every month they bleed out of their dirty, dirty vaginas. And
fucking tips of dicks and menstrual blood the world over are just, they make people crazy.
They make people fucking insane.
Yeah.
And here's so here's the idea. Ayyappan, also known as Ayyappa, or as I mentioned before, Manikantha or Harihaptura, because nothing about Hinduism can be easy, is celibate.
Oh.
And apparently straight as fuck. So if a fertile woman were to come into his temple, dude would just lose his goddamned mind and, something.
Right.
And then you end up with a baby on the forest floor.
He's rather intolerant for the child of intersexed parents.
Yeah, right? Well,
Yeah.
It's entirely unclear what they think would actually happen if he caught a whiff of that sweet, sweet, fertile lady bits.
Yeah, he might go berserk.
But we know for sure that it would be disastrous. So we have a problem because recently the Indian Supreme Court, all the way up in Delhi, so far away from here.
Yeah, totally.
They don't get the cultural context.
Bureaucrats in Delhi.
Yeah.
They
don't care about us in flyover country.
They recently ruled that you can't ban the lady folk from this temple.
Good. Fuck that shit.
Well, yeah. I mean, good, I guess, but here's the problem. There have been violence. There has been violence.
Right.
Surprise.
Yeah, shocking, right?
Violence against women in India?
Who ever heard of such a thing?
Surely you jest.
The first couple of women have attempted to get to this temple. So far, they've gotten to the path, which is the farthest that any woman has gotten in recorded history.
Right. And then they were beaten or...
Rocks were thrown, people blocked their way, monks were sitting on the stairs chanting and keeping them out. It was mayhem. There were police on hand to theoretically help these women get to the thing, but the monks also locked the doors. Like, nobody can get in.
It's a good thing India has no real fucking societal problems, so
right?
You can actually just get mad about absurd shit, right? Like this, that you can really prioritize what you're angry about in a cogent way.
The shocking thing to me is, okay, if you ask most Hindus, do you believe that this deity is a real being?
Yeah.
That exists in reality.
Like Christians believe in Jesus.
Right. Many of them will say no. Of those who say yes, what the fuck do they think is going to happen? A deity can't maintain his own virginity? Like, how is that possible? How is it possible that a deity, someone of magic origins and containing magic within them, would not be able to control himself when a lady person comes into his building? Well, and this is not the only shrine to this guy.
And I'm willing to bet that this is not the only place in the Hindu faith where women are not treated equally.
No, absolutely not. But I mean, that's starting to change, right? Like as we know, as this story points out, India, now, unfortunately, right now, India has a Hindu nationalist prime minister, Narendra Modi, and Hindu nationalism is strong happening there right now.
Right.
And it is just as shitty as the Christian nationalism that's happening in our country.
Right.
It is racist.
Yeah.
It is sexist.
And it's driven by religion.
And it's driven by, religion is the tool that they are using
to achieve power.
To whip up the panic, to whip up the anger, to whip up the hatred.
Boy, this truly is the worst timeline.
We when we had Andrew Copson from Humanist UK on the show, we talked quite a bit about the Indian constitution and how India is of the kind of major world secular democracies. India has, in a way, been the most successful model.
They're great. But the paperwork is good.
The paperwork is good, but like we're finding in so many of these quote unquote secular republics, their welds are being tested pretty hard right now.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's happening here, and it's terrifying.
Yep. And it's happening in Turkey, which was another example in his book Secularism.
Yeah,
it's about to happen in Brazil.
Yeah, I don't know that Brazil was chartered as a secular democracy in the same way that India was, because India was a really brilliant model.
Yeah.
But look, if you build a fucking temple, I don't care if a weird virgin tiger riding boy fired a fucking arrow and it landed in 3 counties over. You build a temple, men, women get to go. I'm sorry.
I actually disagree with that.
Really?
Here's the thing. This is where my mind goes a little bit wonky.
Yeah.
Because if it's a private religion and you're just sort of building your own religion, you get to make whatever rules you want to make. You know what I mean? Like, I wouldn't force the Mormons to let anybody into their temple that they don't want to let in. But I think they're shitty for, like, I think it's shitty. But the thing is, again, Hinduism is not a centralized religion.
Yeah.
So I guess the government, like, for me, I don't want the government telling religions what to do.
Okay, but what about pre-1978, following the Mormon example, pre-1978, when black people were not allowed to go through the temple?
Right.
Would you
I would say that the government has no right to tell them that they have to allow black people.
I disagree.
I think that that to me is a church-state separation issue, where the government shouldn't interfere in what the churches are doing, and the churches shouldn't interfere in what the government's doing. I think that it's shitty, and I think that I kind of love it, especially in a time like now,
right,
when a church is shitty to people, because then the people leave. Like when the Mormon church is shitty to gay people, gay people and people who love gay people start to wise up and they leave.
Yeah, but here's the frustrating thing is, and this is why, again, religion is such a poison, is you can't ban, say, black people from sitting at your lunch counter because you are, as a business, you are engaging in the public sphere, you are paying taxes and deriving benefits from that taxation.
Right.
If you engage in that, you cannot discriminate.
Yes.
That's the law as we have written it and are currently testing it.
For businesses.
Yeah, for businesses. Churches get some special dispensation where they don't have to pay taxes. They get to discriminate all they want.
Yeah.
And even though they're not supposed to participate in the public sphere, they fucking are.
Right.
So, I mean, it just... How much more rarefied ground...
How much more space do
we have to give these people?
For instance, with the Mormon temple thing, black people can go, white people can go, men can go, women can go. Where I agree that there is a bright line between church and state is the church gets to decide in a colorblind way who is worthy of going. If you have to pass some kind of test, you've got to do the Mecca-Lecca-Hi, Mecca-Hi-Ni-O, and if you do that properly, then you get in.
Yeah.
Right? That is their business, I think. But if we're basically, by having religions in our space, we're subsidizing them because they don't pay their taxes.
Right.
So I feel, and they demand all, as Doug was saying, all kinds of shit from us. Imagine how it is in Hindu India.
Right.
How much space they fucking demand in the public sphere.
Right.
And I think it's absolutely appropriate to say, look, you can't, this is not how our society is constituted, you cannot say women cannot come into the space. Like all the Elks clubs and Alta clubs and all those places lost that argument, right?
Yeah,
In court.
except that I feel like to me the fix for that is tax the shit out of them. Don't subsidize them as a thing, and let them, because frankly, there's got to be room. As much as I hate it, there's got to be room for bigotry of thought.
Yes,
and I think we should socially shame that,
right,
and not subsidize it with our not government subsidize it the way we are.
Yeah,
but I don't think that we should be dictating what. I think we can let religions be as anachronistic as they want to be, and I don't think we can dictate what their beliefs are.
Well,
through
where I agree with you is that what's scary if the government gets in the business of dictating what religions can and can't believe or can and can't do is we can never predict who's going to be running the government. Like right now,
right.
I would not want the government to have that kind of power.
Right.
3 years ago, I might have had a different thought process, or not, but now certainly not.
Well, yeah. What I'm saying is, I don't want the churches to be able to mess with the government, and I don't want the government to have anything to do with the churches. And then we can just pass our laws for society, and the churches all have to sort of coincide with those laws. But like, I just feel like if we make that line, as that wall of separation, as sturdy as Trump supporters imagine a wall between U.S. and Mexico, that can only help us. But the wall goes both ways. It prevents intrusion in both directions.
It's amazing how much we bend over backwards to accommodate the bigotry that is so endemic in religion. But
I mean, to me, that's a free speech issue. You're allowed to be a bigot. I'm going to shame you for it, and I'm going to treat you like shit about it.
You are absolutely free to be as big an asshole as you want.
Yeah.
But you're not free from the consequences that the world around you is going to provide you with.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway,
we got off track.
We did get off track. There's not much more to eye upon. So like we can just, God of growth for everybody except ladies who bleed.
Yeah.
Hooray! There you go. Eye upon.
So ladies, if you're in the southern state of Kerala, you might want to not go to that shrine.
Make a run for those 18 steps.
Right? Yeah. Charge in.
All right. Well, thanks. Let's put him back in his weird, spooky
celibate box.
Moving on. Uncle Dan.
Oh, Uncle Mark.
It is another beautiful week. We are joined in a money hug by more beautiful people.
Yes, it's true.
More patronage.
It's the only way we could keep doing this.
Keep this jalopy on the road.
Yeah,
right?
is if people monetarily show their love for our show.
We just bought a fucking weasel, guys.
We did.
You guys, that's literally 100% true.
Don't worry, it's dead.
Our dumb podcast has a stuffed weasel now.
Yes.
We are going to. What we're going to do with it eventually is shove it into an owl and eat the whole thing.
Make a Levita duckin. So yeah, we now have, because of your generosity, we have Levi the weasel.
So you're going to be assured that we're using your money well, at very least. I feel like we've heard our cause.
Yeah.
Anyway, we have some folks to thank. Which is to say, Cameron and Robbie have both decided that they are going to jump on the Help Us train.
They're going to support our weasel habit.
Oh, my God. I think we're going to lose patrons this week now. But if you guys want to help, so first of all, thank you so much, Cameron and Robbie, for your help. If any of the rest of you feel like our show is of any value at all whatsoever and would like to kick a little bit into the can, that would be great. You just go to howtoheretic.com and click on the Patreon link, and that'll take you to there. And you choose the level at which you want to support us.
Yep.
If you're really wealthy, then don't be a dick. Okay?
Yeah.
Give us a lot.
Give us some love. Give us some lesser owl money.
That's right. Yeah.
And if you can't do that, if you can or if you can't do that, please go to iTunes or Stitcher, wherever you can give 5-star ratings. Hit it as many multiples of 5 as you can. Make up fake names. Go to a cemetery, write down names like spies do, and do it that way.
Yeah.
And even beyond that, if you can't give money or won't give money and can't give 5-star reviews, you can do what our friend and listener Tucker did and give us a Quantum Mark 7
E-meter.
Hubbard technology e-meter, which we're staring at here lustfully because it's a beauty. So
yeah, we have now audited each other. We are Thetan free. So
Speak for yourself. I'm lousy with them.
So
we may have added Thetans. I'm not sure.
I think we're gaining.
We are not trained in the use of this e-meter.
We're gaining weasels and thetans. So we will happily accept religious artifacts to decorate the studio as well. So
oh my God.
Thank you, listener Tucker. Thank you, everybody, for supporting us. And let's move on.
Moving on.
Uncle Doug.
Uncle Dan.
You know, you know how there's that thing that we have called politics?
Yes, I do.
That has been just a perennial cavalcade of disappointment
Mostly bad news of late.
in this country. It turns out this is not the only country.
What?
I've heard this. So Uncle Mark here has tracked down someone who has what he claims is good news that has happened in politics somewhere in the world.
First of all, there are more than a few countries on God's flat Earth.
Weird.
So we've gone to we've asked a friend from a very rainy one to come join us, and this is kind of a how-to, because this episode will air publicly on the day of the day after the 2018 American midterm elections.
Yeah.
And
we are all currently, as we listen to this, either disappointed or encouraged.
Yes.
Or more likely just sort of in a daze.
Yeah, and we've invited our friend Rudy to talk about some events in Ireland, of all places, that hopefully will give us a little hope.
Yeah.
Despite whatever comes out.
Welcome, Rudy.
Hello, Rudy.
Thanks, uncles. It's a pleasure to speak to you guys.
It is a pleasure to speak to you all the way across the pond in Ireland, which some really interesting stuff has been happening in Ireland over the past few years.
Yeah, we've really, as you guys would say, turned on a dime in a way. You know, like the Republic of Ireland is not a very old country, if you like. You know, once upon a time we were a colony, for want of a better term, and you know we're nearly 100 years as an independent state now, and with a constitution nearly as long. But I know you guys have spoken about a lot as well, that the literally seismic, the massive shifts in our society and certainly in laws through referenda that we've had here, same-sex equality marriage referendum in 2015, and this year with repeal of the Eighth Amendment, which basically is paving the way to hopefully free, safe, legal abortion services. And then last week we just got rid of blasphemy. You know, no big deal.
So
it's astounding, is what it is.
So for our listeners who might not know the history of the horrendously intertwined history of the state and the Catholic Church in the 26 counties, maybe speak a little bit to that, like what life was like.
I mean, can you call it intertwined when there's no difference? When the state and the church are the same thing? That's not intertwined. That's just the same. Yeah,
it kind of was, and you know the senior archbishops here were very much involved in the drafting of the Constitution, and you know stuff where you'd have ministers kneeling to bishops in the 30s and 40s, and that was just the way things were done. That the priests and the clergy in general had massive sway over public opinion, and shame is basically their tool. You know, I can hear the bell in my mind, you know,
right.
that we all carry with us in terms of people like me who are kind of culturally Catholic. There's nothing I can do about that. So like I was born in the 70s and into a Catholic family, and because everybody was, you know, it was very, very, what would you say? Everybody was a Catholic. I knew one Protestant growing up, you know.
Right.
Did you kick his ass?
We're actually very good friends now. He's a fantastic keeper.
My God, everything's changed.
Oh,
Well, he's a Buddhist now, which is even weirder, you know. But anyway, that's another day's work. But I kind of deconverted maybe in the late 80s, I would say.
was that even legal?
Well, it isn't actually, because it's a bit like Hotel California over here. You can check out anytime you like, etc. Like, I've written to the bishops, I have a piece of paper which confirms we acknowledge that you want to leave the church, but tough shit. And I was like, well, thanks, guys. That's really cool. I must send a picture of that for you. You might be able to stand it out in your feed. And I think the thinking behind that, there was a campaign here called Count Me Out, I think, was arranged. And essentially it was a 4-step guide to leaving the church. And this, you write this form letter and boom, and you're gone. You're off the books. And it kind of very quickly was taken up by a lot of people, and thousands of people were leaving the church officially within a matter of weeks, and it was shut down pretty quickly as well. The church changed the rules. I think that had a lot to do actually with Germany, and there's taxation for the religion you belong to.
Right.
So money somewhere at the back of it all, you know. But anyway, Ireland's history has been in lockstep with the church. Well, I do have to say, in fairness, that before independence, we're talking that there's a big famine in Ireland in the 1800s. Where the church was a refuge and a point to coalesce around for Republicans and for nationalists here. Nationalists is now a dirty word, but when I refer to people who were had been invaded, basically, my predecessors, I guess. And the church was a coalescing point, but the power became so much that it kind of, it tended to corrupt, basically. And so you ended up in a situation then where the church were basically making the rules in terms of anything to do with society. So I'd liken it to the current situation in Saudi Arabia, where you have the Saud family are looking after all the business stuff, but the Wahhabists are making the decisions in day-to-day life.
Right.
Running the schools and all that. And
absolutely.
And,
absolutely.
The history certainly goes back further than the 90 years of the modern state. Christianity and Catholicism have been in Ireland since the 5th century, right? So This is a long dance that church and state have had in Ireland, and I think your analogy to Saudi Arabia is probably the most apt. Say in the 1950s, 60s, 70s, right? That the control over society was absolutely unquestionable. So
totally, yeah. That. And there was kind of an undercurrent of societal violence as well, where that the priests and then kind of the lesser than priests, as in an organization called the Christian Brothers, who I'll come back to hopefully, and nuns in general, who would be responsible for running the vast majority of educational systems, would have a corporal punishment approach to anything that was untoward whatsoever, and will be extremely involved in shaping young minds, basically, and that this is the way things are, and there's no doubt about it. So I was lucky enough to only get a certain amount of the tail end of that kind of whole world of violence in schools. But, you ask the generation above me, and they're regularly beaten and seeing people beaten up by sadists, basically. And so you would have the stigma around sex, of course, which is, that's what they do.
They're really good at that one.
Very on brand for Catholics, yes.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. They're extremely interested in what's going on in the pants. It's okay, guys. That's a bit weird, but okay. But so you'd have the stigma of unmarried mothers, for instance, and a lot of people will be, the shame will be on the family, so that the girl will be shipped off basically for her confinement, and in a lot of cases, the children. There was Steve Coogan made a movie recently. The name escapes me of it, about a woman who was forced to give a baby up to adoption that was subsequently sold to the States.
Right.
I can't remember what that was, but that was a good film.
With Judi Dench, right?
Yeah.
Pardon?
With Judi Dench, right?
Exactly, that's the one. Yeah, it's a fine movie. I'm annoyed I can't think of the name of it. But the that was going on a lot, as a little money spinner for them. And a lot of the women involved and some children would grow up in what were known as the Magdalene laundries,
right?
Which effectively was another money spinner for the church, which was doing, looking after all the laundry for the army or for the various state agencies.
It was slave labor, essentially.
essentially 100%.
Yeah, I love that. Like, you have all these cute terms for human trafficking and slave labor and all of these, like, literally the worst imaginable things that you can do to humans.
Yeah.
But if you call them something cute, like Magdalene Laundry or whatever, then suddenly it's a fine. Why is anybody complaining?
Yeah,
I know.
These were egregious abuses. These were horrendous. 30,000 or more women were in the Magdalene Laundries. The last one closed in 1996.
Yeah, I know. It's mind-boggling, and I must admit, in talking it through with you guys, it kind of helps to remind me of the horror of it all. You know, I do know the boys' equivalent, if you like, were known as the industrial schools, and there's one near Tuam, which is another thing we can talk about in the west of Ireland, a place called Letterfrack, which is basically this kind of Victorian massive building, which was just, unwanted boys and orphans and what have you were just thrown into this system, were physically and sexually abused by brothers and priests for until they were old enough to get out and make them money. And
I don't think priests would do that. I mean, I haven't read a lot, but I don't think priests would ever do that.
I don't pay a lot of attention to the news, but I just don't believe that one bit.
Yeah, it sounds a bit fishy, but trust me on it. But an interesting thing, and probably a nice turning point we can make, is that I had occasion to be on taking a break with the family down in Letterfrack. So I'm in Dublin on the east coast, Letterfrack on the west coast. And Ireland's quite a small country; it's only 3 hours drive away. And I made it my business to go visit this place, Letterfrack. And it's this, it's now a technical college, but at the back of this old Victorian building, which is still there and very grim, at the back of it is a little chapel, and at the back of that is a graveyard, which is, maybe half the size of a football field. And there are just, hundreds of graves, a lot of which are unmarked, and they would have written on "a boy" 4 years old.
Yeah.
Right. And there's like little toys that people would put there and go to see. And it's just, oh my God, it really brought it home to me, the horror, but at least it was remembered. But as I turned around and walked away, I was walking back to join my family for dinner. At the edge of the grounds of the campus it is now, was a playground. It was like a Saturday afternoon. It was a nice day. And the playground was full of children just playing. And I kind of thought to myself, there it is. That's the new Ireland, So that might have been about 5 years ago. It's a nice little kind of counterpoint, And I guess that where things started to change, it's kind of difficult to say because it's quite a slow change. But I would say we could be talking about the early 80s was where the first real flashpoint politically happened. So, should I go on there?
Sure. Yeah. You're doing our job for us. Take us there.
We're not in the studio anymore. We just left. The tape's still turning.
Waffling, and does anybody left at the end turn off the lights? But I suppose the thing about the 1983 in particular was relating to abortion, but we kind of co-opted the English constitution or existing rules that were there, mostly when we gained independence, and then some amendments to that with our own constitution. And basically in 1983, it was the powers that be at the Catholic side, including some very powerful politicians, decided that just having abortion being illegal wasn't enough. So they lobbied for and ultimately was voted in what was the Eighth Amendment, which I mentioned earlier on.
Yeah.
And what that boils down to is it gives the unborn at any stage the equal right to life as the mother or an adult, basically,
right.
a person. But that kind of kick-started the political movement. And now I'm not going to try and gain any credit on behalf of the most amazing women who have worked lifetimes to gain the removal of the Eighth Amendment.
Right.
But my understanding is that really kicked off a debate on the issue for the first time, and Ireland was kind of pushing back a bit at the expression that you'd have here. I'm not sure if you've ever heard about you wouldn't do something out of fear of a belt from the crozier, which is like the crozier being the bishop's stick. You'd metaphorically get a belt of the crozier if you step too far out of line.
Right.
And So the referendum was passed 66%, I think.
Yeah.
But there was significant opposition to it. And some people involved, like a subsequent president of Ireland, Mary Robinson, who last week was appointed chair of the Elders. Do you ever hear of them?
Mm-mm.
No.
Replacing Kofi Annan and then Nelson Mandela before. It sounds very Illuminati, doesn't it?
It does.
But anyway, she's an extremely well respected lady in political terms. So she back in the day in 1983 was a senior barrister or solicitor, I think. And, you know, she started to put forward very serious arguments about the flaws legally in this situation, and also just, you know, the unfairness as she being pro-choice anyway. So that kind of was a watershed, though. It was really like battle lines were drawn. And I can remember at the edge of my memory the campaign itself, and it was vicious. It was really nasty. And I can remember an image from the front page of our national newspaper, the Irish Times, where you had this crowd called SPUC, Society for the Prevention Protection of Unborn Children, had this march on our main street with literally hired thugs up front, you know,
right.
That just like, and there was that undercurrent of violence again. It's there.
Well, the Irish know how to march. If you're going to march,
we're pretty good at it. And I got involved in a few of them then in the past decade or so. It was really, really powerful and really helpful. Yeah. And the you know, looking at it as you know, a child then and becoming a teenager and kind of turning into an adult myself, and you know, as you grow up, you start to think about these issues on your own. And you know, I'd already left the church, but not for any reasons of, you know, the church being in ways evil, but just the logical aspect of it. You know, this God stuff, first of all, doesn't appeal to me. It doesn't make any sense. I'm out, right? And that was the end of that.
Right.
But as we move on towards the 90s, you would have people like still Senator David Norris here, who is gay and very outspoken kind of guy. And he started pushing for the decriminalization of homosexuality. Of course, that was still illegal. And at the same time, there were many other people like the amazing Niall McCafferty, who's a women's rights activist, who was importing condoms from the north on a train. Because, you know, coming from the UK, if you like, and, you know, allowing themselves to be arrested. So there are these condom trains going on.
Oh, my God, that's what a great protest that is, to just bring condoms in.
Yeah, it seems so ridiculous, doesn't it? Like, what? You know, it's insane. But, you know, nevertheless, that like, and I you could only buy, when I was of age, let's say, you could only buy condoms in a chemist or a pharmacy,
right,
or drugstore, right? You'd say, but the before that, you know, you could only get it by prescription from your doctor, only if you're married and only if there's a legitimate health reason for it.
Oh my God, that's well, you know, if there's one thing we can say, it's that letting the Catholics draw out your laws for you, like they have such a great track record on so many of these issues that, I mean, what could have more legitimacy than a group of people who like are deciding what to do about abortion and contraception?
Yeah,
because they're making money, who happen to also be making money trafficking unwanted babies.
Who also happen to not have sex.
Right.
Right.
Well, not on paper.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Who are not supposed to have sex.
Right.
Well, so let me ask you this, Rudy. So in you know, you were born in the 70s. Go back to the 20-year-old Rudy. Can you imagine the Ireland you live in now having been possible?
The Eighth Amendment was the real kicker. That was the real big one, the removal of that this year.
Yeah.
That was even leading up to it. And it was won quite comfortably. Again, similar margin, 67%, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's huge.
And it really is on a two-horse race, you know. So I was kind of gobsmacked that I still am, you know, that was happening. That was the really big one. But what I can see is that there are various things that the government is wresting control back on behalf of the people, in fairness, that you know, taking religion out of schools. And a big thing that happened very recently was the baptism barrier. And what that means is that if your child was baptized into the Catholic faith, you would then have a better, although not guaranteed, right to a school place, primary school place for your child.
Oh my God!
So
in state schools.
In state schools, so there's the 93%, I think, even now, of schools in Ireland are nominally Catholic. Now, the thing is, there's almost, well, the Christian Brothers have since, I mentioned them earlier on, they have since changed their name basically and disappeared. I have a story about them that affects me. But they there aren't so many nuns, and if there are around, they're well into their 80s at this point. There is no, I suppose, new blood coming through at all, right?
Yeah.
And so what's happening, or what has happened over the past 20, 30 years is that your average guy like me doesn't need the church, isn't interested in it, is more educated, perhaps even more spiritually educated, perhaps, or maybe spiritually is the wrong word because it sounds like a cop-out, but more kind of, metaphysically perhaps educated.
Sure.
And people are more open to talk about it and say, okay, well, what's this religion thing all about? And then what kind of really turned public opinion then, if we moved to the early 90s, was the news of all the sexual abuse and cover-ups that had gone on.
Yeah.
So the Ireland is still divided into parishes. I'm not sure what you call them in Mormon land. An area that the church would control. Yeah, what's the equivalent?
A ward here, but it's
a stake or a ward.
Yeah. So the parish I grew up in, there's a chap a couple of years older than I, who is actually a friend of the family, a guy called Andrew Madden, who was sexually abused by a priest in the area. He had been abusing elsewhere, was moved into our area, abused Andrew and others, and then was moved on. And Andrew suffered very greatly from that experience, and has written a book and is very open about it. That's why I'm naming him there. He's a really, really good guy. And then, so this was happening at home. If everybody started to realize this was actually around the corner. Now, there's a weird generational shift there, because it turns out that our parents' generation kind of knew it was going on, right? Yeah. And this is that's the part that's quite difficult for people to look inside themselves. And I think this is the healing process that we as a nation have to go through psychologically, is to say the state and the society were kind of complicit in what the church did. There were blind eyes turned, and that line from that movie Spotlight, and say, it takes a village to abuse a child.
Yeah, what an interesting turnaround of that notion.
Yeah. And so there were cases like this particular one with Father Ivan Payne, and a far more high-profile one with a guy called Father Brendan Smith, who was the devil incarnate, this guy, but was given free rein. And ultimately the church felt it was much more in their interest than the children's interest, of course. So the story, you've heard it a million times, but it became public knowledge then. And then, hang on, there's a cover-up, and there's paper trails that go nowhere, and then people got angry, because especially the generation like me, who are the new adults, going, this is over, it's got to stop, and so that kind of anger built up, and then resentment to the church, and in fairness to Catholics, it was very hurtful for them. Vast majority of Catholics are brilliant people, like vast Mormons, you know what I mean? They're just people, but it was soul destroying for them to have to accept that this was
to confront that this is that they had passively or purposefully ignored this and kind of looked past it for all those years.
100%, yeah. And it's like when we were working on the marriage equality referendum 3 years ago, I'm talking to people about it, and I'm saying, why are you voting no? I don't really understand. What's your thinking behind? Oh, well. And they'd give an excuse, which would be, for instance, they'll have priority in adopting children. I said, well, actually, there was a law put into place, which was done about 2 months before the referendum, that removes any kind of concept of sexuality of the parents in terms of adoption. So that's not, whether it's a yes or no, that won't be relevant. And they talk around for a while, and I'd say, well, so why are you saying no? And they say, oh, well, the adoption thing, which basically means they're not listening, because to admit what the real problem is, they have to look inside into the darkness. Yeah, right. Do you know what I mean? And say, shit, I'm homophobic. Do you know what I mean? And people often don't like to they just brush it away. They can't deal with that.
Well, it's so much easier to be homophobic than to confront homophobia, in yourself. It's so much easier to just, because for all the countries everywhere, it was the default for so, all of these things were the default. It was what you were supposed to be for so long.
Yeah, it wasn't wrong. Right. It wasn't wrong. Yeah. And it's only that shift has happened weirdly quickly in a lot of societies, including but the two we're talking about here today. But let me ask you this question: you are not a full-time political activist. You're not a professional political activist, and I thought that was something that was so interesting about your story. Do you want to talk a little bit about how you engaged in this and what you found successful? What advice you'd give people that want to advocate for something? What you found successful in dealing with strangers that you met?
Yeah, absolutely. It was kind of a bit scary to get involved in a political, because I'm not political at all. I have no affiliations to any particular party over here or anything. But when the marriage referendum in particular, 2015, was announced, it was something that I was like, well, this is very black and white to me, that there is no question here. And I kind of, at the age I'm at, perhaps, as well, just kind of, I thought to myself, I can't let this one go. I can't sit on the sidelines and I just kind of shrug my shoulders and say, yeah, whatever. Because it doesn't affect me. As I'm heterosexual. It will never affect me.
Right.
But society isn't about me, and I'm. It's my responsibility to build a better society for my kids and for everybody who lives here. And I suppose a certain social justice warrior aspect to that, maybe. But I was, and I don't mean that as a pejorative. I think it's a brilliant term, actually. I really like it.
Same.
But, yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's been co-opted by the bad people. But anyway,
fuck 'em.
Yeah, well, totally fuck 'em. But the all of a sudden there was a swell of people feeling like me. But what also was there, and I'm sure that I am sure that all political parties are open to bringing new people on board, right? So I would, I emailed on Twitter. I found the local, Yes for Equality, which was the band of maybe 7 different equality groups, like the Gay and Lesbian Equality Network and others, that formed together under one banner. Mm-hmm. And put off any arguments, because these guys obviously have issues about how to approach the same goal, but came together maybe 6 months before the referendum. And I just got in touch with them and I said, listen, I'm in Dublin Northwest. What do I do? It's okay. We got a meeting in the local college at such a time. See you there. Brilliant. So I just rocked up and walked away with a bunch of merch and to give to people and badges and what have you. And I still have a rake of them now. It's brilliant. And okay, we're going to knock on some doors. And I was kind of going, okay. And knocking on doors was kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
And I witnessed live homophobia, doors being slammed, horrible things being shouted at people, and I think I was more affected than the gay people I was working with,
who are probably used to that. Well,
that's what they said. Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like even think of that as an excuse, but it's still true. But so I was kind of, oh my God! But there were counselling stuff. But looking back on Twitter at the time, so every evening it's between 7 o'clock and 9 o'clock. At 7 and at 9, there were pictures of literally, scores of people at street corners saying, this is us in one part of Dublin, this is us in Galway on the west, this is us in Kerry in the south, and we're going knocking on doors. And it was a massive, genuine grassroots movement. So I ended up picking up a lot of merch. I just spent an hour of an evening just delivering stuff, what would you say, just through letterboxes. But the thing that I probably felt was most effective in terms of numbers, because it's very difficult to gauge these things,
right,
is what I've called micro-canvassing, which is conversations, the chats, as a friend of mine called it, where you have the chats with somebody. And on Facebook in particular, like Twitter is a little bit bubbly. Facebook are your relatives, and you can't, and friends from school and that kind of stuff, and you can't really choose them perhaps as maybe or curate them as much as your perhaps Twitter feed. So I was kind of nudging conversations along there about and you registered to vote, are you up for voting, and then taking it offline into private messaging and saying, listen, are you sure you're registered to vote? Brilliant. What's your plan to vote? Are you going out to drink? Because referendums are generally held on a Friday, and the most recent one was, and a lot of people missed the chance to vote because they went straight to the pub after work. So I was like, well, listen, make sure you vote in the morning, and just do it for me. Do me a favor here, And these guys would be saying, oh, fuck it, he's going to ask, so I'll just walk and do it, or whatever reason, But
it was polite pestering. You politely pestered the people in your life. And
it was, a lot of people were doing that, but also to tune into the way of, yeah, you're part of a community. Yes, you're affecting change. You're doing this. Now I had a tiny, tiny part among thousands of people and some absolute, giants on whose shoulders I stood,
Right.
like the aforementioned David Norris or Colin O'Gorman or other, like Panty Bliss. I don't know if you know.
Yes, absolutely. Miss Panty Bliss.
She's amazing.
Amazing.
And that just changed Ireland, Now, of course, there's generations of people like Senator Norris and others behind even before that who, as long as we've had gay people, we've had resistance to the homophobia. But that was, the real start of something and a belief then in the new Irish people to say, yep, you know what, we can do this. And then the government, okay, you don't need a weatherman to know which way the wind blows, right?
Mm-hmm.
I decided, okay, well, now I think it's time to start looking at what else we can do. Now, before the marriage referendum, I do have to talk, before the referendum in 2015, I do have to talk about something that happened to Galway in 2012, which is the utterly tragic and avoidable death of Savita Halappanavar. I'm sure. Have you heard about that situation?
I don't know if I remember that. Why don't you tell us, Rudy?
I'll very briefly go through it. So Savita was an Indian national who moved here with her husband, and she was working as a dentist. He worked in IT. He had been here for a number of years, and Savita was expecting her first child and was, had a suspected miscarriage and was brought into hospital. And what happened was that through a combination of lack of clarity over what doctors could do to save her life, her cervix was open and she contracted sepsis and died after a couple of days of hand wringing, and it actually got to the point that one hospital. Key point here is that both Savita and Praveen asked to have an abortion.
Right.
Oh.
And one of the nurses in question kind of shook her head and said, and this didn't happen like it sounds, but what she said was, no, you can't have an abortion. This is a Catholic country, right?
Right.
Now, but she said that with sadness and regret rather than smarminess.
Rather than go fuck yourself.
Right. She was her hands were legally tied. She would have been held. She could have been held liable for murder.
Yeah, and there were like 20 people along a chain of the subsequent inquiries. But anyway, it was Savita's death for the tragedy that it was. It really mobilized people and got people very, very angry. And the government then was already in train with the same-sex, the equality referendum. And when that passed with similar 66%, then the plans were put in place to how are we going to overturn the eighth, or at least have a vote on it. So the government they did it for the equality referendum, which was, instead of just proposing it themselves, they kind of had a lightning rod called the Constitutional Convention, which they essentially convened to have 100 random citizens discuss it and get all the information, and should we do it, and thereby washing their hands of any kind of. So it's politically quite a smart thing to do. But, ultimately the go-ahead was given to have a referendum this year. And we won by a staggering amount, considering that the ferocity of the
opposition.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. The news has kept coming from the Emerald Isle, and it just keeps surprising those of us over here who know a little bit about,
Irish history.
The history of Ireland. To see all of these things coming to fruition. It does seem like the lesson that we can learn as Americans from this is that what we should do is allow the Christians to take over and just have a couple hundred years of horrific abuses, and then we'll be able to fix things.
It just might work.
Yeah, what we need is 1,500 years of the Dark Ages.
Right, yeah. We just haven't gone through that yet. That's our problem.
What I take a very hopeful message from all of this, Rudy, and yes, you're standing on the shoulders of giants, but those giants can only do so much. And it is the armies of the little people out there who just engage on Facebook and knock on doors and do the work of making society a better place. And I think that's, your story and the story of you and your fellow countrymen are extremely inspiring to us. So wish us luck on Tuesday, won't you?
Oh, absolutely. I've been following you with great interest. So I won't even make a prediction because this will come out after the results. But
Right.
I'm cautiously optimistic. But fingers crossed. I was 2 years ago, and that didn't pan out so well.
Oh,
Right.
don't even say it.
Yeah, we're all. The caution is overweighing the optimism at this point.
The champagne in my fridge is 2 years old.
Oh, there you go.
And
I
one,
think the takeaway, like you guys said, is what motivated me to get kind of political, if in such a word, is that it's my society, and it's up to me to actively try and change it. And it doesn't cost that much in terms of time or effort and all that, but it does give a great sense of ownership. And then when things can go right, that you help cause the goodness, the improvement of society. And it's up to you guys. You've no excuse. Make it better.
well,
I love it.
And
I
in the
love
spirit of taking ownership, now that blasphemy is legal in Ireland, in closing, would you like to blaspheme on the air?
Legally.
No, I won't. And I'll tell you why. Because I think it shouldn't be a crime, obviously, to be blasphemous, but to be blasphemous enough to trigger that thing that is leaving our constitution, you have to be a dick about it, right?
I love it. What a great take.
You're too fucking nice.
No, it's very good. Don't be a dick, but it should be legal to be a dick. I think is where we as a I think that's a fantastic way to run a society.
There you go.
Well, Rudy, thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, Rudy, what a pleasure.
Next time, let's come back and talk about the next referendum when that rolls around.
Right.
If we still have freedom of speech to talk to you in this country.
Yeah, true enough. Yeah, maybe you come onto my podcast and I'll have Radio
There we
Free
go.
Ireland.
From our bunker.
Outstanding guys.
All right, Rudy. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Rudy. Well, friends, that's it for this week's show.
Hey, we'd love to hear from you guys. Send us an email, howto@howtoheretic.com.
Or if you're a pope that has been a pope and not a pope, then a pope again and been beheaded and thrown in the river, etc., we'd love to hear from you. Leave us a voice message at 903-88-HOW-TO, which is 903-884-6986. We're also on Twitter at HowToHeretic and on Facebook.
Yeah, let us know if your sea turns to blood. Thanks so much again to all of our patrons.
And thanks to Cody Layton for editing the show.
And
Vote, vote, vote.
it's too late. And thank you for tuning in. We sure appreciate it.
Bye, friends.